Jesus is my savior. Trump is my president.
What does that mean to you?
Jesus died on the cross to forgive us for all our sins.
How do you think Donald Trump will be remembered in history?
Well, it depends on who you're asking.
Yeah.
If I ask you, how do you think Donald Trump's going to be remembered in history?
Probably one whole page of the history book where it just says mugshot right there.
Yeah. And that is from your side of the table.
Well, history is usually written by the winners, and Joe Biden won.
Well, and I'll let you go with that.
Trump supporters still cannot accept that this man lost in 2020.
This is Trump 2020, make liberals cry again. But Trump's the one who's not in office. So the liberals were happy about the 2020 election. So if there is a group that's crying about it, it would be conservatives.
He was first elected, and we were trying to, in 2020, we were trying to make that happen again, make them cry again.
But then he lost.
He lost, right, and now they're doing everything they can possible to stop him from even running in 24.
But if you had to say who's been crying about the 2020 election, who would it be?
I want to ask you about your hat, ma'am. FJB, right? I know what it stands for. I know what it stands for. Tell me how much of this is about that, right? How much of this is about owning the libs being out here?
Well, what I'm most disappointed about is that our president definitely has dementia or something, and he's not capable of running this country. Something has to be done. It's actually very embarrassing. Every time he's on TV, he's tripping. He doesn't know which way to go. It's just sad. We just need change, and everybody.
So would you be okay with another Democrat, a younger Democrat? A lot of people have told me that they want to own the libs. They want to come here to prove the libs are ruining the country, and they want to own the libs. Can you tell me what owning the libs means to you?
Prove them wrong, because they're wrong about a lot of things. And, I don't think they even necessarily mean to be wrong. They just don't know what's right.
And give me one example.
Okay, well, there's too many examples. I don't know. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
There's so many. There's got to be one.
Something that they are wrong about.
Owning the liberals is, I never thought that we would even be here standing, even talking about liberals.
Meaning?
We're so left. We're so left. I just pray that the country turns around and we become one nation under God again.
What is it about liberals in America that upsets you?
As far as liberals, I would venture to say just the ones I've spoken to, and I have, they have no clue. My biggest fear right now is nothing is in place, or I don't know if anything's in place, to not have the election stolen again. That's my biggest fear.
So you think it was stolen last time?
Absolutely.
Now that we understand the litigation efforts by President Trump and his allies, I'd like to present additional actions taken by the Trump campaign during this time. President Trump continued to push the stolen election narrative, even though he and his allies knew that their litigation efforts, making the same claim, had failed. Now, it's worth pointing out that litigation generally does not continue past the safe harbor date of December 14th. But the fact that this litigation went on, well, that decision makes more sense when you consider the Trump campaign's fundraising tactics. Because if the litigation had stopped on December 14th, there would have been no fight to defend the election and no clear path to continue to raise millions of dollars. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd ask for unanimous consent to include in the record a video presentation describing how President Trump used the lies he told to raise millions of dollars from the American people. These fundraising schemes were also part of the effort to disseminate the false claims of election fraud.
Without objection, so.
My name is Amanda Wick, and I'm Senior Investigative Counsel with the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. Between Election Day and January 6th, the Trump campaign sent millions of fundraising emails to Trump supporters, sometimes as many as 25 a day. The emails claimed the, quote, left-wing mob was undermining the election, implored supporters to, quote, step up to protect the integrity of the election, and encouraged them to, quote, fight back.
But at the end of the day, so much of what you see is MAGA Republicans just wanting to stick it to the libs. It's really not more complicated than that. So, you don't even really need to ask if they actually believe the big lie. It's part of their brand. It's part of their ideology at this point. Trump is their figurehead.
Which way to the cult rally over here? Is this the way that we go for the cult rally?
Yeah. For the what?
For the Trump rally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to get on a bus and they shuttle us up.
They shuttle us, and then the leader will speak and tell us what to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
What he said the other day was beyond absurd. And I'm just wondering, at what point do we let it go?
Talk about Biden?
Yes. When he's calling Americans names. We see what happened after Corona. They start coming after Chinese people, thinking that they had something to do with the China virus. So people are very influenced very easily. Now you're going to...
You said that people are coming after Chinese people...
Like in New York and stuff like that, we're
because of the... You said the China virus?
Well, because you know how much in the media they amped it up. All right.
But so do you think that isn't calling it the China virus kind of like a racist way to talk about it?
No, because that was what Trump said. When they asked him why he called it China virus, he said because it came from China.
Right, but it's like kind of putting it on the groups of people, exactly what you said you didn't like.
No.
No?
What I'm trying to say is this, all right?
Sure.
All right. When people are very susceptible to believing things, okay, they take it in.
What do you tell people who think the following of Trump and MAGA is kind of a cult?
No, it doesn't follow that at all. If you look at the definition of a cult, they take away your rights, they take away your choices, they control your finances. I don't think this is cult. I think that people are learning. We're digging deeper than we ever have before. We're asking hard questions that we weren't asking for the last 30, 40, 50 years. It's not a cult. We want answers. We want to know the truth about what's going on. And we're looking for a leader who will expose the corruption, the Epstein corruption, the Hunter Biden corruption, all of that. We want to see where our tax dollars are really going.
But anything that he said, generally in his administration, I believed.
So if it was coming from him, it was gospel. Because there are a lot of people that say, well, that's turning a blind eye to things if you're only trusting the person who's saying it. Almost it's cult-like. Does this feel cult-like at all to you?
No, not at all. In fact, what's cult-like to me is watching the mainstream media and listening to the existing administration.
What do you say to people who say that this is a cult?
I think the deep state's a cult.
What can you define what the deep state is?
Yeah, the original 13 families, it starts from there.
Can you tell me who you mean back in the colonies?
Oh, no, don't try. No,
I meant the 13, because the 13 colonies.
The original 13 families, the Rothschilds, the Astors, all the big money, okay? We know that that's where it all comes from. And they've all capitulated to the almighty dollar. And there's just way too much corruption, and we the people are going to change that. We're going to fix it.
They think we're all crazy, and we probably are.
That's what they're saying about Trump supporters.
Yeah.
What seems like a mere funny thing or something to laugh at, this idea of cult identity that's associated with Trump and his followers, would be funny, except for it's rooted in something deeper, something that Democrats and Republicans alike are responsible. The media also has a role to play as well. It's this oversizing of what the rural vote means, what it means to be rural American or white American, and how this small minority of a population has so much control over what our politics is. That's all this is about.
What does MAGA mean to you then? So Make America Great Again, what does that mean to you?
The America I grew up with, we want it back. We want people to stop censoring us. We want them to stay away from our Second Amendment. We want freedom of religion. So if you're a conservative, if you're a Christian, if you're white, you're a male, it doesn't matter what color you are. We want people to be respected for who they are. We don't need to have infinity stones because you're black, you're gay, you're trans. We just want everybody to be treated equal. And they're trying to say that we're the party of the racist party when they're the ones actually wanting Jim Crow rules back.
In what way?
Well, colleges. They want to have black and white graduations. They want to separate us.
Where do they want that?
What colleges? Man, look. Okay, I don't know. Google it.
If you get down to the root of what MAGA, Make America Great Again, it's only a signal to those who think something is being taken away from them. People have told you year after year after year what you should know and what you should believe about white voters, real voters in the heartland or in the South. What they're really saying to you is what you should know and should feel about this white minority voter. You've heard politicians say so much about DC, Baltimore, Philly, New York, and other majority Black or metropolitan areas that have large Black populations that are negative. But if you ever say anything about Trump voters or rural voters or white voters, then you are anti-American, anti this simple way of life. You are an elitist. It don't matter who says it. You are an elitist, even if you come from these spaces. So the root of Donald Trump's existence, this MAGA, is the same thing, the same playbook that Ronald Reagan and all of Republicans have ever used to rile up disgruntled white people. They're the first people to talk about ending culture wars, but that's all they are. They exist as a cultural war. The anti-woke is extremely woke when it comes and pertains to white people feeling like they're not getting their fair share. But in actuality, they get more than their share. They get way more than what they are owed. This country pays white people, and if not directly in monies, it's in white privilege. And that too has its benefits, from everything from longer lives, less likely to be interacting with police officers, shorter sentences, better access to fully funded schools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Make America Great Again simply signals that white people feel like America is becoming too diverse. And when you look at Trump following, this is exactly what you hear and see. This is how a group of people, poor, lower, middle class white people, are dead set on setting this guy who is from the richest of rich, from the place that they hate, New York. Donald Trump is a born and bred New Yorker and loved everything about New York before he started running for president. How many Trump towers are there in rural spaces? How many Fox headquarters are there in rural spaces? How many radio stations that y'all are listening to are in rural spaces? The very people you're railing against are feeding you the narrative, and not to your benefit. Life in rural people, life under Republicans isn't better for white people, especially not poor white people. That's not what they're voting for. It's not policies. These white people aren't voting based on policies. It's that cold feeling they get when they know somebody's going to raise up whiteness.